So how do you think that your books can get like the deserved attention they need in the media?
I think it's a difficult one, because if I knew how to do that, I would do it. What I love is that the books, the Black British history books that I write, find their readers. Word of mouth, social media, has been fantastic, and and also working at community level as opposed to universities. I mean, I'm not against universities, but I never get invited into a university to give a Black British history talk. But I will get invited to a community centre or somewhere where young people particularly can access what I'm doing, a talk or wherever it may be. And I really enjoy that. I don't do it all the time, because I like to stay at home and write, because writing is my passion. But if I'm asked to come out like today to give a talk about my books, or one of my books, I will do it. But it's really more word of mouth, and hopefully it will filter through to the media. It hasn't yet. After 33 years, I'm still waiting, but you never know what might happen tomorrow. And that's the joy of doing what I do. You never know what's going to happen next.
Do you have like any social media accounts like Instagram, TikTok?
No, I'm rubbish.
Or
About 10 years ago, when I wrote the Black Poppies book, I was dragged kicking and screaming to Facebook. Didn't want to go on it, didn't know what it was. When I figured out that I had a friend in the early days, always put his breakfast on Facebook. This is what I'm having for breakfast: sausages, egg, whatever. And then I realised, well, if he could put his breakfast on Facebook, I could put my book on breakfast. Yeah. Now, I was writing Black Poppies at the time. This was in 2013. I spent that whole year writing Black Poppies. And I started drip feeding onto social media, onto Facebook mainly. A little bit of Twitter, but I didn't really understand Twitter. But Facebook, do you know, when that book was published in 2014, it sold out. Its first print run of 500 copies. And my publisher couldn't understand it. How come it sold out? I said, Facebook, because there's no other publicity. And then they had to reprint it. So I learned early on with Black Poppies that was the way to push the books out there and hope, fingers crossed, that the word would spread. But unfortunately, because I'm a bit old now, I registered with Instagram, but I don't understand it. And I'm told I come off Twitter or X and go on to, not Bluetooth, Blue Sky. I don't know, there's so many. Well, it's a new one. It's replacing X, because X is so nasty.
Yeah.
Blue Sky is apparently it, but I think they've only got about 3 followers. I don't know, but it probably not. But I'd love to figure out Instagram. But what I need to do, maybe I can come here, and get a young person to teach me how to promote my books on Instagram, because I'm told by everyone I know, Instagram. Yeah. I'm thinking, yeah. Okay,
and TikTok. TikTok's good.
Absolutely, yeah. TikTok.
TikTok's the big one.
Either, but yeah. So yeah, I've still got a lot of learning to do myself.
Do you believe that systemic racism is the reason why it isn't spoken about, or is it the ignorance of the community itself to speak up about their generational history?
Well, it's an interesting question, and thank you. I'm now of the opinion that the racism narrative, racism has existed in this country, and we know about some of the terrible things that have happened. We hear a lot now about the Windrush generation. But racism isn't the only narrative. As I said to you in the room, not all white people were racist. Not all black people saw themselves as victims of racism. So what I'm trying to say is that if you look, you have to look with a bigger vision. You have to have a consciousness that will allow you to understand racist attitudes and where they come from and where they are placed in history. But also at the same time, there's another narrative, and that is the positive experiences of black people. So can I give you an example? Last October, I was invited to King's Scottish Hospital to give a talk. One of the talks that I give is about black nurses in Britain in the health service, before the NHS. The NHS was founded in 1948. So I talk about Princess Adamola, who I mentioned earlier, and other black nurses going right back to the 1800s. And in the question and answer, a young black woman in the room, she may have been a nurse, she may have been a doctor, she may have just been a staff member of staff, She said, oh, when my grandmother came over from Jamaica in the 1960s and she became a nurse and she suffered racism and all these terrible experiences. And then I waited for her to finish, and do you know what I asked her? I said, yes, but... She said, no, I asked her about racism. That was what she said. I asked her about racism and she told me about all the racist things that happened to her in the 60s in the NHS. I said, but did you ask her the other question? She said, what other question? Did you ask her about the white nurses that were nice to her? Did you ask her about the white patients that were nice to her and gave her flowers when they left hospital as a way of thanking her for looking after them? If you don't ask the question, you won't get the answer. So if you only ask black elders about racism, they will tell you about racism. But if you also ask them about nice white people and friends they made with white people, they will tell you. But we never ask, we never encourage young people to ask those questions. So it's to me, it's the most wonderful revelation to me. I mean, I knew it anyway from my own family, from my great-grandmother who was white and adopted my best into my family during the war. I knew that anyway, but I just wish it was talked about more. That it's not just one size fits all, there's all different experiences, some good, some bad.
So how significant do you think black people's contribution were in the war?
I think the black contribution to World War II particularly, World War I as well, but if we're talking about World War II, which is what I talked about today, phenomenal. The more I find out, the more fascinated I become, the more revelations come to me from different sources. People who always contacted me about family members from the Caribbean or from West Africa. I mean, for example, when I did the Under Fire book, Black Britain in Wartime, I couldn't afford to go to Africa or the Caribbean to interview older black elders about their experiences of World War II. You can find them on your doorstep. So I interviewed black elders on my doorstep. I went to the pensioners' centres and I went to my next door neighbour, Randall, who was born before the Second World War, could remember what it was like in Barbados during the war. History is on your doorstep. You don't have to get funding from somewhere, not that I could. Although it's a wonderful thing to be able to do, if you can do it, to go to the Caribbean or West Africa and talk to people. And then there was this Sierra Leonean that I was aware of. And I went to him and he told me the most amazing stories of growing up in Sierra Leone during the Second World War. That's how I approach history. You know, if you have to find imaginative ways of finding the information.
Thank you.
And my other question was, how would you respond to criticism to appearing as a white saviour to black issues?
I'm not a white saviour. I find that insulting. It never comes up. It never comes up. And I think the reason it doesn't come up is people who know my work know that I've been doing it for a very long time, and that if they've read my books, they know I'm genuine. Not all white people come from all white families. Not all black people come from all black families. Even within our families, there's diversity. And so that's another thought that I kind of put out there. But white saviour sounds horrible. It's a horrible term. I hate it. But I've been lucky. I've never been targeted. But then the way I look at it, I can understand, to answer your question, I can understand a black activist's point of view. Only we should be telling our stories. I totally understand that and accept that. But for myself, on a personal level, it's never hit me. No black activist who believes that has ever come to me and said, you shouldn't be doing this.
I might rephrase my question.
No, that's fine. That's a perfectly
how would you
good
deal
question.
with the criticisms? Like, how would you uplift yourself? And how would you tackle people saying that kind of stuff about you? Or how would you tackle somebody's opinion that might appear as they think that you're only writing to protect the black community and to give them a voice when they do already have a voice?
Well, the simplistic answer, no, it's a very good question. The simplistic answer is read my books. It's all in my books. What motivates me, what brings me to this work. I'm not liberal, I'm not a lefty, I'm not a radical, I'm just me. You know, I just follow my heart. I just followed my heart when I was younger. Yes, Aunt Esther in my family was a trigger, but she wasn't the only one. It wasn't just because of her that I started on this journey.
It was an interest.
It was an interest that was informed by absence in the history books.
Yeah.
I thought, well, if I can find out more. But I never intended to write books, don't get me wrong. I mean, that was furthest from my mind. I was just had an interest. I just kept, like a magpie, as I collected.
Yeah.
I've got about 10 filing cabinets in my spare room, and I can only move in there for information. I just collect everything. And then in 1991, when Aunt Esther's book was published, I realised there was a potential for writing more books. That came later, but it wasn't easy because publishers in this country were so resistant. The first publisher I went to with the Black World War II book was, oh, we can't possibly publish a book like that. You know, we only publish books about the Second World War that's about Winston Churchill and King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. You know,
That's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
Exactly. And I just thought, well, I don't want to be published by you anyway, I'll go somewhere else. It took 8 years to find a publisher. But I'm persistent because I believe in what I do. If I get knocked back, I just bounce back. And that's easy to say when you reach the age I am now. And yes, I do have a senior citizens bus pass. So you can probably guess that I'm older than I look. I must tell you this, and you can film it. I got on the bus the other day and sat in the senior citizen seat, and this old lady prodded me in the back and said, "You're too young to be in a seat." And I've got out my bus pass, my senior citizen bus pass. I'm a senior citizen too. I'm not moving. No, if someone disabled got on, of course I let them out my seat. But I love the fact that I'm older, because when you get older, you get more mouthy. In a nice way, in a positive way, a constructive way, and I'm not afraid to speak my mind, but I'm always measured about what I say and informed. You know, I don't just say things just to upset people. I don't upset people. But the book.
How do you think Elevated Minds can support you with promoting your book?
Just spread the word. Just spread the word. Go on the internet. I have a website with all my books on my website, stephenbourne.co.uk. And then just spread the word. And if people don't want to buy them, like Tracy said in the room, you can borrow them from libraries, public libraries. And if the public libraries don't have them, say to them, can you get Stephen Bourne's book, whatever it is, Black Poppies or Amplifying. Just spread the word. That's how it's done. And that would be a wonderful thing if Elevated Minds could do that. It's just to share that information out there and get it into schools, get it into, amongst yourselves, and if people want a reference point, the website.
And I think I can vouch for everyone for saying that we're very grateful for you attending today.
No, thank you. That means a lot to me, and I'm happy to come along. I know Doreen very well, and it's a joy to come and meet young people like yourselves from a different generation that don't have the sort of expert knowledge that I have, but then you're a lot younger than I am. But if it starts an interest, if you read one of my books, I'll just flick through it and see what's in there. And watch the film Blitz. I highly recommend it. I found it very emotional to watch, and it resonated partly because of what my parents went through as children in the war, partly because of what Aunt Esther went through as a mixed race woman, but also partly because we never see black people in British films in that setting. And Steve McQueen's done there are a few things in the film that I didn't like, but that's like any film you watch, you think, I don't know that bit, but that bit's good. But I think overall, it's a really brilliant film. And I'm sad that the British film critics have kind of marginalised it. I don't think it will win many prizes, but it should.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.